The young couple, Sarah and Michael, had always dreamed of a peaceful honeymoon far from the bustle of their everyday lives. Nestled in the Sierra Nevadas, Lake Tahoe seemed like the perfect destination, a place where the crisp mountain air and the serene, crystal-clear waters could help them begin their life together in tranquility. They rented a remote cabin on the southern shore, tucked deep within the forest. The cabin was isolated, standing alone like an ancient sentry amidst towering pines. Sarah had found the place charming when she saw it online, rustic, cozy, with a wood-burning fireplace and a private dock stretching out into the lake. It was perfect for romantic mornings on the water and starlit evenings by the fire. But upon arriving, something about the place felt different. The silence of the surrounding forest seemed too still, too heavy, as if the very air were holding its breath. Michael brushed off her concerns, attributing her unease to nerves and excitement. On the second day, after settling into their new home, they decided to go paddling. The morning was calm, the water's surface glassy and untouched by wind. The sun peeked over the horizon, casting long fingers of light across the lake. Sarah felt her initial worries melting away in the warmth of the morning, and Michael, eager to explore the lake's deeper waters, suggested they paddle further out than they'd initially planned. The couple rented a tandem kayak, Michael taking the back seat, Sarah at the front. As they pushed off from the dock, the gentle creaking of wood against water filled the air, accompanied by the rhythmic splash of paddles. They glided easily across the lake, marveling at the surrounding landscape, snow-dusted mountains rising like jagged teeth in the distance, the thick expanse of forest ringing the lake like a dark crown. "Isn't it beautiful?" Michael whispered, his voice almost reverent as they drifted farther out into the open water. Sarah nodded, but a small shiver crawled up her spine. The lake, so vast and so still, seemed too empty, too quiet. There were no boats, no other people in sight. Even the birds that had filled the air with song when they first arrived were nowhere to be seen. They paddled deeper into the lake, nearing the heart of the waters, where the blue darkened, becoming almost black. The sun's warmth faded as they ventured into the shadow of the mountains, and a sudden chill clung to the air. Sarah glanced back at Michael, who flashed her a reassuring smile. Yet, her instincts nagged at her, a primal sense of danger that she couldn't quite shake. "Let's stop here for a bit," Michael suggested. "We can take a break, just drift." Sarah hesitated but agreed. They rested their paddles and allowed the kayak to float aimlessly. The silence was deafening. No wind, no birds, no sound except the occasional drip of water from their paddles. Then she saw it, just a brief flash beneath the water's surface. A shadow. Large and swift. Sarah gasped and leaned over the edge of the kayak, trying to peer into the depths. "Did you see that?" she whispered, her voice shaky. "See what?" Michael asked, his eyes scanning the water. Something moved under us." Michael chuckled. "It's probably just a fish. This lake's full of them." But Sarah knew this was no ordinary fish. The shadow was far too large, and there was a deliberate movement in the way it glided below them, like a predator circling its prey. Her heart began to race, the hairs on the back of her neck prickling with unease. Suddenly, the kayak jolted violently to one side, as if something had struck it from below. Sarah screamed, clutching the sides as the kayak rocked dangerously. Michael's eyes widened, and his hands tightened on the paddle. "Okay, that wasn't a fish," he muttered, his voice low, edged with fear. They quickly dipped their paddles into the water, trying to gain control of the kayak, but the calm surface of the lake had become deceptive. The water churned beneath them, ripples forming seemingly from nowhere. And then, without warning, something slammed into the kayak again, harder this time, sending them careening off balance. "Michael!" Sarah shouted, her voice trembling with panic. "I'm trying," he yelled, digging his paddle into the water, but it was too late. The kayak flipped, and they were plunged into the icy depths. The cold was a shock that stole Sarah's breath. She flailed in the water, disoriented, as her limbs grew heavy from the frigid temperature. For a moment, all she could hear was the rush of water in her ears and the frantic beating of her heart. Then, she surfaced, gasping for air, her eyes searching for Michael. He emerged a few feet away, struggling to stay afloat. But something was wrong. The water around them wasn't still anymore. It was swirling, churning, as if something massive was moving beneath the surface. Sarah's heart leapt into her throat as she saw it, a dark shape, enormous, rising from the depths. It broke the surface, just a glimpse at first, a serpentine body, smooth and slick, with scales glinting in the weak sunlight. And then, as it moved closer, she saw the head. Long, grotesque, with black, lidless eyes that glared at them with cold intelligence. "Michael," she screamed, thrashing toward him. "We have to get to the shore." But the creature was too fast. It darted beneath the surface again, disappearing into the deep, only to reappear closer, circling them like a shark preparing for the kill. Sarah could feel its presence, the water rippling unnaturally around her, the force of the beast's massive body stirring the lake into chaos. She and Michael paddled frantically, their limbs burning from the cold and exertion, but it felt hopeless. Every time they thought they were getting closer to the shore, the creature would emerge again, looming just beneath the water, as if it were toying with them, drawing out the terror. At one point, Michael disappeared under the water, dragged down by something unseen. Sarah screamed his name, her voice raw with desperation, but he resurfaced, gasping for air, blood streaming from a gash on his leg. "We need to swim," he shouted, panic in his voice now. Now. They swam for their lives, the shore still agonizingly far away. Behind them, the creature broke the surface again, and this time it wasn't just a fleeting glimpse. It was fully visible now, a monstrous serpent, its slick black body rising from the depths, long and undulating, with a head that twisted toward them, jaws parting to reveal rows of sharp, jagged teeth. Sarah's lungs burned as she pushed herself forward, driven by sheer survival instinct. But the creature was gaining on them, moving with terrifying speed. She could feel its presence, the water growing colder as it approached, the air around them seeming to thicken with its malice. Just as they reached the shallows, where they could almost feel the rocky bottom beneath their feet, the creature lunged. Its massive form surged out of the water, its body coiling around itself in a grotesque display of power. Sarah felt the force of its approach like a wave crashing into her, sending her sprawling onto the shore, gasping and shivering. Michael wasn't so lucky. The creature's jaws snapped inches from his legs as he stumbled onto the rocks, dragging himself out of the water just in time. They collapsed together on the rocky shore, panting, soaked, and freezing, their bodies shaking from exhaustion and fear. For a long moment, neither of them could move, their eyes locked on the lake. The water, once again calm and serene, lapped at the shore as if nothing had happened. The creature was gone, disappearing back into the depths, leaving no trace of the horror they had just escaped. Sarah turned to Michael, her voice barely a whisper. "What was that?" He didn't answer. He couldn't. The terror in his eyes said everything. They scrambled back to the cabin, dripping wet and in shock, locking every door and window behind them. That night, neither of them could sleep. Every creak of the wood, every rustle of the wind outside, made them jump. They could still feel it, watching, waiting. The creature, whatever it was, wasn't gone. It was out there, lurking in the cold, dark depths of Lake Tahoe, biding its time. And they knew, one wrong step, one unfortunate return to the water, and it would be waiting for them again.